Are you interested in starting your own cash PT practice? Maybe a little side hustle practice right now because you're bored with what you do at work and you're seeing massive volumes of patients. I found the most success by going this route through a practice in a gym. And this is why I started the Gym PT Blueprint. The Gym PT Blueprint is really a program that shows you exactly how to be successful in the cash model, whether it's a side practice or you're diving head first like I did. This shows you exactly how to set your finances up correctly, how to set your practice up correctly, how to sell things, how to market yourself, and how to really convey your unique value to other people so that they'll want to pay you for it. If you are struggling to figure out how to set your practice up correctly, or if you're in practice and you're not making at least 5 figures a month at this point, you really should check out the Gym PT Blueprint. Head over to drdannymatta.com/products. That's DRDANNYMATTA.com/products to take a look at the Gym PT Blueprint and see how this program can help you become successful. So here's the question. How do physical therapists like us, who don't want to see 30 patients a day, who don't want to work home health, and have real student loans, create a career and life for ourselves that we've always dreamed about? This is the question, and this podcast is the answer. My name's Danny Matta, and welcome to the PT Entrepreneur Podcast.
What's going on, guys? Doc Danny here with the PT Entrepreneur Podcast, and I'm super excited to have one of my good friends, my co-host of the Doc and Jock Podcast, Coach Joe Shamanic, on the podcast today. We're catching up. We've been catching up for a few minutes before the podcast. This is gonna be a fun one. But Joe has become an author in the time between, when we last did a Doc and Jock podcast and now, and it's just a cool message. And it's like really such a interesting thing. I think it's such an accomplishment, but also, I kind of want to talk about the process of that, but also talk about why he did it. Cause I think it's a cool message, and any of you that have kids, especially little girls, it's going to be important for you to know. So, all right, Coach Joe, what's going on?
Bro, I love that you called me an author. That's interesting. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, you are. You have a book.
Yeah, I adapted this goofy little kid poem I wrote for my daughter and put some cool pictures to it. But yeah, I'll take where I can get it. But yeah, man, it's fired up to talk to you. It's been a little bit. It seems like this PT Entrepreneur podcast is blowing up, dude. I think this niching down here and helping your folks is doing well. I actually before we get going on me, I'm fired up about this show. I mean, who you reaching out to? I mean, what's been going on here?
Man, I tell you, it's been really, it's been fun. When we did Doc and Jock, there is a big audience. Like, it's actually way bigger than the PT Entrepreneur Podcast, mm-hmm. which is interesting. But there's like a subset of people, and it'd be funny for some of them to listen to this because they're very familiar with you as well, that started listening to Doc and Jock, and occasionally we would talk about business stuff on there, and I would always get like so many emails from listeners whenever we would talk about business stuff. So, we kind of want to dip our toe in the water of kind of niching down a little bit more. But I tell you, the reaction from the people that listen to this, that have reached out for help, that we've worked with, that everything that's come from it's been really cool. Like we've literally helped like directly. I don't know indirectly how many people we've affected, but directly over 100 cash practices get started in the last 9 months.
That is awesome.
Which is crazy, right? Like, from an impact standpoint, I'm more proud of that than starting our own business in Atlanta, which is something I'm super proud of. But just the ability that we could really help over 100 other PTs that I know of directly, like, that's just crazy, because that's how many, think about how many people they can help in a manner that's more effective than like a big group setting. And so, it's good, man. It's cool. I get to talk business. I like talking about this stuff, and I like learning about it. So, I feel like this is sort of, I don't know. I feel like I kind of found my groove with this stuff.
Well, what a place to do it too. Cause I watched you and Eliza go through the Baylor program. And of all the crap that you guys had to deal with and what you learned, at no point did you guys ever come home going, man, it was really a great lesson on what to do with our business. Right? So, I think it's a vacuum that you filled, and you do. I mean, I've picked up a bunch of stuff from you, even going with whatever. So I think it's really cool.
Well, I tell you, man, I remember we had one, it was a management class at Baylor. And, I mean, they have the same problem in military clinics over and over again. It's that they don't have enough staff, so they outsource to the civilian clinics. And so we're looking at the numbers from this clinic that was in San Antonio, and they were outsourcing like $100,000 in physical therapy every month. In terms of, soldiers and sibling or spouses and stuff that they just couldn't see. So, we're sitting there, and Colonel Moore, he's sort of a gruff, old colonel. And he's like, well, tell me what you guys think about this. And I go, well, sir, it just seems like you should hire like 2 more physical therapists. You'd pay them probably $80,000 to $100,000 worth of contract, per year. And then you'd get like 10 months of revenue back if you just did that. Cause that should be able to capture all the people that you're losing. And you would have thought that I said something like absolutely crazy. He was like, yeah, that might work, Captain Matei, or Lieutenant Matei at the time. And then he just went back to what he was doing. And I sat there, I did the numbers for like an hour. I was really like, seriously annoyed. I was like, this is bullshit. That would fucking work. And then never said another thing about it. And I remember people gave me a hard time. They were like, yeah, hey, nice one. Yeah. Like, now don't try to change the government system. That's dumb.
No, it's funny because even now, like Eliza's actually implemented this like direct access thing that has like gotten them more time with folks and whatnot. It's hard. I mean, sometimes even in like the military might have this thing, but like sometimes just having the right letter in front of your name or the right time is really just what you need, right? To maybe influence that sort of change, or like what you're doing now, coming at it from outside to affect it from within, I guess, is what you got to do.
No, I totally agree. And some of it also, you gotta take it with the good that you're learning as well, in terms of like the amount of leadership that gets thrown at you in the military from an early, standpoint. Like, you're just expected to take these leadership roles. You're expected to be able to do more than just be a staff PT. And really, you're supposed to be good when you first graduate, which is not necessarily always the case with students. So I think the military, if anything, probably was very helpful in terms of being able to go off on your own and be an entrepreneur and kind of be isolated, because that's just what happens. Like, I mean, that's a brigade position whenever you graduate. It's like, all right, cool. Now go to this brigade and be by yourself with a bunch of people that don't know what you do. So now you have to try to explain to them what physical therapy is and talk about like marketing, trial by fire. I mean, that's all that is. So, it's cool. And not only that, but man, I mean, like, dude, it's just, I tell you, the one thing I do miss primarily with the military, and Eliza probably really enjoys this, is just the kind of feeling of commonly working together for achieving a goal,
Sure.
Like team environments where I think that's pretty cool. And more power to her, man. How many years does she have left before she get that check?
Well, that retirement thing that she's working for. I think it's 5 now.
I mean, 5 years. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, and look, listen, I know there's a lot of stories about the military and, I mean, we've been really fortunate. I mean, think about it. North Carolina, San Antonio, Hawaii, South Carolina, West Point, and now we're in Tacoma, Washington. Yeah. Like, we've had a really good run, and everyone's not so fortunate. And every time she wants to get out, they send her back to school, and she does something she wants. So, it's been a good run for us. But to be honest, that's part of the reason I've started to write this book and I do this podcast business, is because it's just trying to figure out a way where at the end of that 5 years, I don't have to have a boss and I can kind of get some things going on my own. So, it's interesting. It's a fun ride. It's been an interesting ride as a spouse to go through it, but I've been honest with you. I mean, I loved it. If it wasn't for Eliza, I would have went to Neshaminy High School and I'd be coaching high school football right now. And, outside of a square, between Philadelphia and Baltimore is where I would have lived my whole entire life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So to some degree, that's Eliza in the military kind of opening my eyes up, and it's just been cool. It's been cool to go along with it. So,
no, I think it's huge, man. I mean, like, think about not just you guys, but I mean, like the military, put you in situations that make you sort of uncomfortable, right? Like
100%.
I remember moving to Hawaii, and I was very excited to go there. I think all of us were. And when we got there, I remember staying in this hotel at Tripler, and it was
the ones behind Tripler.
Yeah, and it was damp.
They were terrible.
It was damp, borderline wet. Everything was damp, and I don't know why. And it rained. I remember it rained like the first day, and it was sort of like Ashley and I both had this sort of like oh shit moment where we thought to ourselves, oh my God, we're in the middle of the ocean on an island, and our family is not anywhere near us, and we know nobody out here except for you guys. Like, holy crap, that's a pretty isolating feeling. And that lasted for about a day, and then we were like, oh my God, this place is amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, very few people get an opportunity to move to somewhere like Hawaii, or in your case, you guys got to go to West Point for a year and a half.
Which was awesome.
I mean, think about just the historical significance of that place and the people that have come through there, and that experience. I mean, and your kids get to experience that. Like, that's super cool. They get exposed to that. So I don't think you can put a price on that, because you're right. If the alternative is coaching football in a little town and never really getting to see any of these cool places that are out there, dude, you go to the Army a lot. You know what I mean? Like,
100%. I mean, instead of watching diners, drive-ins, and dives, we do it. I mean, we've done it. You know what I mean? So it's been really cool. I would suggest anybody. Like, I think one of the reasons, I think your mentor, Kelly Surratt, said it best to you. I'll never forget this. I tell people this quote from Kelly all the time, where I guess, what was it? The NorCal Regional. I guess you were hanging out with him, and you said, man, this place is beautiful. And he goes, well, there ain't no luck in where you live. And to some degree in the military, you do have a little bit of luck in it, but we could have gotten out at many times, you know what I mean? And even 5 years down the road, there's going to be no luck at that point. But so I've kind of taken it to heart, and I think it's awesome. I think folks get out. I mean, to some degree, I still have family at home who are like, how'd you get out of this town? And I'm like, I decided to, go to college a couple hours down the road, and then I married a girl. I mean, it was that simple.
No, I mean, it does sound simple, but I mean, like, look, it's a challenge, right? If generations lived in the same place and all of their friends and family live there, like, there's a lot of negativity associated with you deciding to go do something different, because you're sort of like, I mean,
we're not good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or sometimes they're just
a big shot travel pants.
Yeah. Like, oh, hey, college boy.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, did you get your degree, college boy? It's like, yeah, I did. And I'm off to go become a consultant or whatever. Like,
be awesome.
I mean, but the thing is, like, it's just, I mean, Kelly's dead on with that. Like, I don't know, man. It bothers me, and it's sort of hard for me to relate to people like this that are just like super complacent. And there's a lot of people like that, and I don't know what it is. If it's maybe something wrong with me or whatever it is, but I see that stuff and I just think, like, dude, there's got to be more, right? Like, there's got to be more.
Yeah. Well, what I don't like is it's not the complacent folks. I can get someone who's like, yeah, I'm cool here. Like, this is my dream to coach here, to do that, whatever. I don't want to be anywhere else. My family's down the street. That's cool. What I don't like is folks who are like sitting around and they're just like complaining about it, because there's no room to complain anymore. There's so much information. There's so many opportunities. Yeah. This is the greatest place ever. Like, just go do something. What's the worst that's going to happen? You fail and you come back. I mean, come on. So, and that's even the whole point with this goofy book that we're writing. Let's put it out there and see what happens, because it's super nichey. It's a super interesting little story. But why not put it out there and see what happens?
Here's the deal, man. Like, this, as you can make this sound as insignificant as you'd like. You're like, oh, it's just a little poem and I got a couple illustrations. That's bullshit. If you're an author, let's say what it is. You're an author. Okay, you're
children's author.
It doesn't matter, published author, soon to be Amazon and New York Times bestseller. And
love it.
And not only that, but like, think of it this way: I think that it takes a lot of balls to write a kid's book about weightlifting, or powerlifting, or just strength in general when it comes to little kids. Like, I mean, dude, not a lot of people have done that that I know of. And I mean, all right, talk to me about this. So, okay, here's the emphasis of all this. So, Joe, this was how long ago you read that poem to me? And I was like, dude, you should write. That's awesome.
Yeah, so you were actually,
It sounds weird too, by the way, when you say read a poem to me. It was kind of weird at the time.
Actually, that's funny because you were the second person to hear it because I read it to my wife and the kids, obviously. And then we went to we were at the World Weightlifting Championships in Houston, Texas.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I said, hey, man, let me read this goofy thing to you. Let me get your opinion on this. And I read it, and it was that. So, yeah, we can pinpoint the actual date. It was the Friday of the World Weightlifting Championships in Houston, Texas, right after we taught the first day or maybe Saturday
it was like
night,
November 2016. Right?
Yeah. So I read you the goofy poem, and then from one thing leads to another. Hooked up with the right artist, and we developed this legit book. I think it's legit. I do. I tease it a bit, but there was a ton of thought went into every picture. We introduced scaling in a particular way. The story kind of grew organically from an experience we had with Donnie Thompson down in Columbia, South Carolina, and some lifters I had because Donnie's just a great dude. And, and it's really weird. You got this CrossFitting stay-at-home dad turned coach / podcaster who gets into weightlifting, and then all of a sudden he writes a kid's book about powerlifting of all things. Right. So, it's interesting. It's goofy, but, it's been cool to watch it. Where we sit now, it's neat to think. I think I get my first order of books tomorrow. They'll show up on the doorstep, and then I organized this road trip. Danny, Eliza wants to see the West Coast, and all along the road trip, I'm going to be doing a couple readings. So I'm going to go to Invictus. I'm going to pass the book off to some folks, and I'm fired up though, man. It's been a cool process, and I'm fired up to see what other folks finally think of it.
Look, I'm telling you, you need to try to prolong your trip by a day, and stay in San Francisco a little bit longer. I'll see if I can link you up with Kelly and Juliet. This is right up their alley. Kelly and I have had a long conversation before about the fact that the youth female athlete is probably the most underserved athlete from a strength and conditioning standpoint that there is. There's just not a lot of emphasis on it. If you're looking at, young girls in like club sports and even through middle school, high school, college even, I mean, they just do not get the same amount of attention that their male counterparts do in terms of, actual coaching in strength and conditioning at least. So
and two, just and never is the emphasis in my mind ever put on let's get them stronger. Right. So that's the big thing, even with this book. Let's plant, in my mind, we do all these things in PE to plant all these seeds, right? Like, let's put a ball in their hand. Let's introduce them to gymnastics. Well, why not give them an avenue to focus on strength? You know what I mean? So that's probably the biggest message of the book. It's just, let's attack this goofy issue of kids just sitting around too much by just giving them a story of a little girl who decides that, I'm going to stop being scared. I'm going to go get strong. You know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, talk to me about the process a little bit, because I think there's probably quite a few people that are listening to this podcast that are thinking, one day I want to write a book. I mean, I think that's just a really common goal for people. So tell me about the process of actually writing this book and getting it published.
Well, it kind of just starts from writing what you know about, to be honest with you, and being ready when the idea hits. If anyone who's listening to the show probably knows from Doc and Jock days that, I'm a dime a dozen idea guy, right? So, but the point is with this particular idea, I'm just out in the community training with folks, and I woke up one morning and, boom, this idea for a poem popped in my head and I wrote it down. So honestly, the process to me for this particular time was just taking advantage of something that kind of came about, right? So just having some things about things that you're passionate about, and don't be afraid to write the weird idea down, because sometimes that weird idea takes a little bit of time to develop. But if you don't just at least have this goofy little notebook, if you don't have these things that you write down, if you don't have a process for capturing your creativity, you really will forget it. You know what I mean? So from that, whether it's blogging, podcasting, keeping kind of crazy journals, you really just got to capture your ideas, because you never know the one that I think is just going to be the game changer. And it could start from something goofy, but something goofy could could just come and become something pretty big.
So once you got all the actual like words written out, the text, right?
Yep.
What's the next step, for you at that point to get this thing kind of rolling?
That was always weird too, because I was always kind of creative, right? So I could always draw a bit, but I couldn't draw enough to make this happen the way I wanted to. So I had all these goofy sketches that I was writing out, and these characters that we were developing. And honestly, it took finding the right artist to kind of bring that vision to life. Because when I looked at this book, the poem was fun, but I really wanted the art to be like comic booky edgy, I guess, if that makes any sense. And that's the route that I took with it, to make it look kind of like Powerpuff Girls, on the Go Mad diet, right? So that was the thought, and I found the right guy. It actually took a while, because I was trying to work with somebody else who was an illustrator, a friend of mine, someone who was actually big into weightlifting. She actually loved the project very much, but I don't know if she could quite see the vision, and the sketches that came through early they didn't look like she connected with it. And of all places, Danny, I found this artist out of Korea. And I found this artist through podcasts. And I was talking with a guy about the project, and he was a mutual friend of the first artist that kind of just fell through. And he was like, well, you know what? I know this guy in Korea, of all places, and you should link up with him. And really just did it through Facebook Messenger. So it was kind of actually by happenstance that I found the right guy. And when I touched base with him, I found out that this guy's a powerlifting dad who does comic book work out of Korea. And through Facebook, we've just chatted it up. We had a great little working relationship. And it's gone from there. But, I don't know. For me, I guess that leads to just not compromising, just because you might think someone's the perfect artist, or they might be your close friend, or this might happen. But honestly, that was a big moment for me in the book, because I thought I had the right artist, but the work wasn't what I wanted. And that was hard to tell somebody, no, I got to go a different direction. Right. So, and then I had to kind of, with faith, put it in this guy, who's oceans away. Right. So that was a really weird process, but, you can imagine how that goes. I sent him some sketches. We went back and forth. Things got right. And you tell me, what do you think of what you've seen of the early artwork on this thing?
I think it looks great, especially because I know Donnie, right? So I'm like, man, that's so good. And what's cool is he's totally down with like, oh yeah, absolutely. Use my likeness, because he's a distinct looking human being. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a likeness to it, and I just think it's such a cool idea, man. I hope people feel the same way, because you can check this out. Go to Lucy, LUCI, meetsapowerlifter.com. And you can take a look at the book and the artwork. And I've got, you've got two little girls. I've got one little girl. Yep. And I totally see it. And sometimes I'm also, I have the same bias. I'm like, Jack, let's wrestle, and Maggie wants to come and wrestle or whatever. And I'm like, Maggie, you're going to get hurt.
That's right.
And but she's tough as shit, dude. Like, she's crazy. And I think she's probably tougher than Jack, especially when it comes to, she's just intense, and she needs to, be coached on some of these things. I think she's going to be a better, power athlete, frankly. I think Jack will be better, long distance. He's got these long spider legs, but, Maggie, short bursts, that's her thing, man. So this book for me means a lot, because it's definitely something that I'll read to her. And also, our wives are strong, they train, and that's something that, you can credit CrossFit a lot for that it made it okay to really, do barbell work and lift weights. And, you're not going to get bulky if you work out. It's okay. So, this is cool.
No, that's exactly. And even, where we talk about Lucy with an I, that's the name comes from my youngest girl, you know what I mean? And I just kind of plugged her into this idea that, I want a little girl to conquer her fear of a big, strong guy, and then in turn learn how to become strong herself. I mean, I think the cool part about the story is she develops strength in a lot of different ways. In the beginning, it's as simple as saying hi to this guy. And then by the end, she's going through the moves, and you even watch through the illustrations, you see the power lifter kind of get surprised at her own intensity developing. So, no, it's pretty cool. And at the heart of it, that's to a big message that, I want my little girls to not be afraid to do anything, or, at least to be able to come up to me and say, "Hey, Dad, I want to try this." And it's cool. I feel the same way about Charlie, the middle girl. She is a complete savage. She's got legless rope. She's got legless rope climbs as a 5-year-old. She's killing it. She's excelling in gymnastics. I kind of, for whatever reason, I think I had to keep my kids from running in traffic recently. And when I grabbed them by their arms, I thought I grabbed Mason on the right and Charlie on the left, but I was wrong. I mean, Charlie is one thick puppy, and it's all strength, it's all density, and it's all muscle growth from what she's doing with some body weight stuff, and just getting strong. So yeah, I hope girls pick this message up and they like that. And honestly, I know the books might be geared towards girls, but it is a message for any kid to get into it. And within even some of the illustrations, we introduce kind of scaling at some point. And, I don't think I even cut corners by introducing different aspects of powerlifting to these folks. There's some cool, I even threw Donnie's tempering equipment in the background. I threw one of the illustrations has a monolift in the background, and there's maces and things like that. So the thought there in doing some of that stuff was just to introduce kids in general to different kind of training. It doesn't just have to be running and playing soccer for kids anymore. I mean, you can pick up sandbags, you can swing kettlebells, you can push sleds, that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty fired up for that, man, to throw all kids, into the fray and say, hey, get after it, get strong.
Well, I think it looks awesome, man. I'm super proud of you. I think this is a cool project. I think it's something that, we talk about, impact is really, something that I think that's something we both are really we both find very important, because obviously this is an impact goal, but the site looks really good too. And I mean, from a logistics standpoint, I think this is from a business standpoint and logistics. So okay, you got the book published. Is this what kind of publisher is this? How does it work in terms of you getting copies and people ordering copies? What's the process of all the back end stuff with this?
Yeah, it is a process, and it's one that's probably retarded the growth of the book, right? Can you use that word in its true sense anymore?
I'm not quite sure you're allowed to do that. Unless it's. Yeah. Well, no, we'll leave it at that.
I mean it in its real sense. It has slowed the growth of it quite a bit.
No, I got it. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, because it has, because I'm trying to sort it out and, doing a couple other things as we go. But yeah, so I went a self-publishing route, but I went a route that was beyond, some of the more popular ones are something like in the kids book space, or even any writing spaces, is kind of creative space, realm, where you can end up doing it pretty affordably and you kick some things back to Amazon. But the only issue with that is you can't kind of go hard book routes, or hardcover. And I really wanted that as an option for folks who wanted to maybe bring this into their gym or not. So yeah, I went a self-publishing route, and there were a couple different places that I went, but I found a group that would walk me through the copyright process and some of the other logistic things to help me through that process. And then to build the website now, to get it going, I leaned on folks that I've used in the past who've done great work for Doc and Jock. So, producer Johnny helped me throw this site together, and I'm pretty proud of it. I think
Johnny built this site?
Yeah, Johnny built the site. So
dude, Johnny's such a stud. He's listening to this shit too. Johnny's such a stud.
Yeah,
shout out to Johnny Bouchard, man. He's the man.
Go Rad Company, folks. I mean, he took some of the artwork that I had and really put it together seamlessly. Got some pictures, and I think it tells a good tale. There's a neat thing about how it came together. You can preview the first 4 pages of the book if you want. I want people to know what they're getting into. I want them to make sure they like it before they make the purchase. So that's cool. But yeah, Johnny did a lot of the back end stuff in that regard, while I kind of sorted out the publishing spot. So what's cool about that is because I leaned on, it was kind of a guided experience with the publishing process, and then use Johnny on the back end. What I've been able to do is kind of get things set up for like a big summer launch, which I'm pretty fired up about, which will start here probably on June 13th when we hit our road trip. We're going to do like this West Coast thing where, along with driving down to Disney, we're just going to tour it out. So we'll see if the logistics we have in place. But really what I leaned on is I tried to find someone I trusted to walk me through the publishing process. Had to pay a little bit for that. And then I leaned on a guy who did good work for me in the past and didn't try and build another website. Cause even with Doc and Jock, how long did it take me to build our first website? That was a headache and a half, sir. And, I didn't,
we were stuck at stuff like that.
I didn't want to do that again. So, I leaned on Johnny, and then, yeah. And so we'll see. So now I can kind of just plug and play and really push the book and talk about it, which I think is what I'll end up doing the best at.
Well, when are you going to get some copies of this sucker? Because I honestly think you need to mail one of these bad boys to the Starrettes, dude, because this is right up their alley.
Well, what I'm going to actually do is at the start of the road trip, I was planning on stopping in San Francisco and dropping one off to Juliet. She'll get one. Kelly's away in Europe, I think, right now. But on the back end, I'm probably heading up to San Jose to meet with a podcasting group to talk about the book. But maybe I'll talk to Eliza and see if we can extend a day and just pass it off that way and just shake hands with you guys again too. But yeah, I'll have copies. Right now, what's today? Today's Monday. I think June 4th. I'll have copies on the 5th, which will be fired up. I'll have copies tomorrow. So I'm going to go down to Portland and pass one off to Chris Duffin, who's done things with Doc and Jock. Yeah. And that's been the cool part. I've reached out to a lot of folks that we've interviewed with Doc and Jock, and I'm like, hey, I got this kind of goofy idea. So people seem on board for it. You know what I mean? So
so if somebody goes and buys this right now, when do they get it?
They should be getting them pretty quick. I mean, hopefully, I don't have the books in my hand.
So you're not shipping these out. So if I buy one of these right now,
yeah, from the website. No, I'm doing them. I'm shipping them all out.
You're shipping them all out.
Oh yeah, yep. So the way if you buy from Amazon or some of the other places, there'll be someone else shipping them. But with the route that I've taken, I'll be doing it all. I'll be shipping them out from my house.
What are you gonna do if you get like 1,000 people order this book?
I hope I have that problem. I would love to hire somebody to do this.
Have you ever heard the Sarah Blakely? So Sarah Blakely, this lady that started Spanx, right?
Okay.
I heard a great podcast with hers called How I Built This. And she talks about her product and how she had, initially she pushed it really hard and it was starting to pick up some steam or whatever. And somehow it got its way into Oprah's favorite things. And she was still shipping everything from her own apartment, her and her friend.
Nice.
And it got its way into Oprah's favorite things. And they had like 30,000 orders in a couple of days. And then they had to turn the site off because they had to fulfill all of it. And they did. The two of them basically did all of it themselves. And they brought on like a temper or something like that. It's a crazy story, man. But
I want that problem.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So okay, let's talk logistics of this. So you make a little hardcover book, a kid's book, right?
Hard and soft now.
Let's say hard and soft.
And the ebook. You can get the ebook too.
Oh, you can get an ebook. Okay, but I like hardcover books for my kids. I don't know because they don't
100%.
Dude, they don't mess them up. I totally agree with you.
100%.
So I buy this hardcover book. How much money does Joe Shimonik get from that book? I want to know, so that I can buy this and know how much money that actually going in your pocket.
Well, right now the hardcover books are going to cost about $8 to make. So that's what I have to do. And then
so then you have to shipping be separate.
Shipping will come to me. Shipping will be anywhere from $2 to $4. And then afterwards, I think we're legitimately priced at $24 for that hardcover book.
Dude, that's a steal. I'm getting it. No shit. I'm ordering this book. I mean, if it wasn't rude, I would do it right now. But
No. You don't have to order. You're going to get one, buddy. Don't worry.
I'm ordering this book tonight. If you understand it, because I want you to have to send it to me.
There you go.
And I want you to have to work for it.
Yeah, you should.
No, man, this is so freaking great. I think this is awesome. Anybody out there that has a little girl, if you don't have this book in your little girl's bedroom, then you're a bad father, and you need to rethink what you're doing in your life. Because it makes sense, man. And it's just things are different. You know, let's be honest. You know, like when I had a sister, no one gave a fuck about what Megan did from athletic standpoint. No one coached her on strength and conditioning. No one did anything like that. And you know, it's sad because Megan is a really good athlete, and she didn't get the same support that my brother and I did in terms of athletics. And
yeah, well, I'm on that note, just like Barbie was a revolutionary thing for girls and toys. You know, girls used to just girls didn't have the toys boys had, you know. Girls only had like paper dolls. So maybe now this is the point with the book, right? That's the revolution in that sense. Let's start coaching these broads up. That's really what we would do. Get them early. You know what I mean?
I think it's going to be, I tell you what, it'll be really interesting to see the response to this message, because I just think it fits a need, and it's a good message. The artwork is great, you know, and it's just healthier. It's healthy for them to be strong, just like, you know, boys, and it's good for them to be strong. And then I will say, man, I mean, CrossFit gets a bad rap from certain things, but dude, if it wasn't for them, the acceptance of strong women would not be what it is today.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. They get a bunch of the credit for that, and you know, girls are running around in weightlifting everywhere. I mean, it's expanding. I mean, even like the powerlifting group that I follow on the Instagram, a lot of them are females, and it's cool. I mean, there's so many cool girls that folks can look up to. There's this chick. You ever heard of this girl, Meg Squats? You ever heard of this YouTuber?
Yeah, I have.
She's a pretty good one. She's actually, I'm fired up. She's behind the book. I reached out to her. She's going to start pumping this thing up. And that's the point too. Like, any body image that you like want to attain, you should be able to go at it, and you shouldn't be self-conscious about it. Right. And if that means going out and getting strong and, you know, getting some shoulders on you and working for some legs that can really move weight, I think that's fine too. So, wholeheartedly hoping that people see this book and take that message and run with it.
Well, it's also, it's a body image thing, man. I mean, if you think about, you know, the idea of, you know, strength being a problem, like for you to have some muscle on you, that's not feminine, is crazy. You know, like it's healthy. It's normal. It's something that should be totally acceptable. And I mean, even I remember when I first got into CrossFit, like, look, when I first met Brandy Richardson out in Hawaii, I mean, like, look, hey, go Google search Brandy Richardson CrossFit and see what pops up. Like, she is a strong girl. And I remember, like, man, I was totally I thought it was an anomaly. And for Brandy, like, I mean, think about how much of a just like home she's found, how well known she is within the CrossFit community because of how strong she is. Like, people look at her not like, oh, what a freak, like, oh my God, she's such a freaking awesome athlete. And that's the way she should be looked at.
Oh yeah, she's awesome. She was an awesome teammate, a great girl. And here's the cool thing about her: she's still, she's still a woman. You know what I mean? She's a mother. She's got a kiddo, and even other girls I think about with this book who I think need to be brought to the forefront are women like Cheryl Hayworth, who changed weightlifting in this country for women. Yeah. And there's a cool documentary about her called Strong. And it's just like, if you have this talent for strength, or if you have this thing that you have this scratch you want to itch as a girl or anybody, you shouldn't have this idea that I can't do that because of how you were born. You should go try it. And I think that's a big thing with this book. So yeah, man, it's cool that you recognize it. It'd be cool to see if all these little girls and parents recognize this. So I'm hoping they do.
Well, it's exciting, but also I love the idea that you can have impact on other people by having a positive message, but also, create a career for yourself and revenue for your family, at the same time, is that you can't help people if you're just, look, you and Eliza are not going to be broke no matter what, but like, that's the one thing I get also. People are like, oh, this is such a good message. Why don't you give it away for free? So like, well, dude, you know how much time
oh my gosh, I don't want to go into it.
Do you have any idea? Yeah. And not only that, taking a chance on something like this and you're betting on yourself.
Yeah.
Support the idea. That's really what it comes down to. Not look at it, different context. But so what's one last thing I guess I would ask you, like from a book standpoint, what's the biggest logistical challenge that you didn't expect that you found with writing a book?
Oh man, I think I brought a lot of these challenges onto myself. It's just taken a long time it's just the time, to be honest with you. The artwork's been done for a while, but kind of going through it, I think probably had I, looking back on this, I probably wouldn't have taken on so much on myself, right? Because I've been teaching part-time again with kids. I've been doing the podcasting myself with the Everyday Weightlifter. I've been trying to grow a little business as well. It's just trying to take on too much. So what I'm most fired up about is just having a summer that's completely dedicated to this book and to seeing what could happen. And I think had I been able to really slow down and do that, or if I would have made a bigger investment up front to maybe help with some things that I'm not so great at in terms of, marketing the book and doing some other things. But I took on a lot, right? So in that regard, not thinking it was going to be a huge process, but everything is, but you don't know what you don't know sometimes, right? So I'm interested to see what happens with the next one and how this one goes in that regard. But man, it's just there's just a lot of pieces to it. I don't, man, what to put it to one challenge, just what do you say about an elephant? You got to eat it one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess in that regard, just realizing that was going to be the case. It's just everything's work, right? Whether it was our little Everyday's Back Day program or it's the podcast, nothing's going to grow to be big unless you really put the time in. And I guess in the beginning, not recognizing that to some degree was probably the biggest thing. So it's been cool recently for this picking up a little bit of steam, but it's really just because I've kind of nutted up and focused on it, right? And you probably seen this as an entrepreneur, right? You have this thought that, man, I'm going to do the stuff I like, but sometimes if you do too much of the stuff you like, you don't focus on any one thing. So I think that was a big problem for me in the beginning.
I think it's a challenge for many people. Like the idea of narrowing down your focus is very hard. And it's also can be kind of boring initially. Not necessarily boring, but you can feel like you're not being as creative because you're just focusing on this one thing. But if you focus on the right thing and you're creating impact from that, like that. There's a saying, success without fulfillment is the greatest failure. So if you're successful,
100%,
and you make a bunch of money, but you help nobody along the way. Like I know a guy that is in a business forum that I'm in here in Atlanta, and he has like a predatory credit lending company. He like lends to people with like really low credit for basically furniture and shit like that. It's like really high, rates. Is like 80% interest or whatever. And the guy makes a ton of money, right? But every time I see him, it's like the only thing that he has in his life that's actually going well for him. He doesn't seem happy. He's working through like his third marriage. He's unhealthy. There's buckets of health or of wealth, right? There's like family, health, personal, relationships, monetary, time, all of these things. It's more than just how much, what your paycheck is or whatever it might be. But when you can match up something that it really, gives you a lot of fulfillment, and you can create revenue that can support your family, like that is very hard to come by. And that is something that is incredibly impactful, on your life. So I really do. I hope this is an opportunity for you to do this. This is such a good message. I hope people that, they gravitate towards it the same way that, that
I do.
My wife would agree with you on that. She's watches, and because here, and I'm almost like the opposite of that guy. I think sometimes, like I'm so unmotivated by the money pursuit that I give away quite a bit of the time and volunteering to work with the kids at school and doing certain things. So in this regard, the promise I made with my wife was this has to be one that at least pays for itself. So we're hoping that we've worked that out to some degree with this thing. But yeah, it's weird. That's my question for you. You've got this. Here's my question for the PT entrepreneur. And this is maybe for all entrepreneurs. How do you find that balance between taking your passion and to monetize it, right? Because it's something that I've had a really hard time doing that, and I don't know if this book is that route for that, or maybe the next thing after the book is the route for that. Because everybody who tells me, every author tells me, this is not the thing you're going to retire on. So you have to have, what's the next thing, right? So we're developing some ideas for that, but that's been I'll be honest with you, Danny, that's been the biggest challenge for me being on my own. It's being disciplined enough to just, whether it's close the sale or make the sale or make the contact, it's just not being motivated by money at all has been to a detriment. So how do you make that turn?
Well, I don't know. I feel like it's very subjective, right? For me, I wouldn't say that I'm not necessarily money motivated. I'm more impact motivated. I know that in order for people to do what is necessary in terms of going and trying to do their own thing, it requires a lot of work and sacrifice, and no one really ever does that when there's free advice, right? Like when you pay attention, and it's sort of like programming, for instance, right? So okay, you could give somebody a program for weightlifting it's free and it's awesome, and you give it to them, and let's say the same person in an alternate world or something gets your program but pays $500 a month to do this program. Who do you think is going to get a better outcome?
Well, you'd like to think that the free guy would do it, but you sometimes you got to pay up. They're going to put more into it. I guess that's the investment these days, right?
It totally is, and it has to be.
You got to prove it's going to work, right?
It has to be an amount that they don't want to feel like they're just wasting, right?
Yeah.
And I've noticed this with people. I give people, whatever business advice. They don't do a fucking thing I tell them to do. None. It's nothing. As soon as there's a cost involved, all of a sudden they are implementing like crazy, and it's because they feel like they don't want to, waste that information that they've gotten, or that program or course, or whatever it might be. And so in my perception, it's a way for us to hold people accountable. It's a way for us to make people do what they need to do and create a habitual change. So, I think for you, one thing that you always have to kind of keep in mind, and this was very hard for me with physical therapy, because it is something that I would do for free. Like I literally, my neighbor just texted me while we're sitting here, and an old neighbor, I should say, and he's like, "Danny, I hurt my back. Do you have any office visits tomorrow?" And I don't have any, but I've got a table and I have a basement that's unfinished. So if he's down, he's going to come over here and I'll work on him, and it's totally free. Like I'm not, whatever. He's a buddy of mine. I would do this for complete strangers. If I didn't have to pay a mortgage or buy food, I would absolutely do physical therapy work for free, because I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of it. So when I got out of the military, I had a really hard time selling myself and, taking money from people for something that I would do for free. But the reality is that you have to have revenue in order to have impact. Like we look at, the more revenue we generate, the more money we can give to nonprofits that we align ourselves with, that we really value. The more we can provide good jobs for our employees and for them to be able to, have a really good life and not have financial stress all the time. And if it wasn't for that, then it would never happen. So as you go to sell these books and to make connections, what you really probably need to keep in mind is all the little girls out there that they want to be athletic, and they're just not getting the same attention as their male counterparts, their brother, whatever it is. And, that it's okay for them to be strong, and that's normal. It's healthy. And, it's up to you to share that message. And if you can't, then you're failing them. And that really is what you have to think about, because it's not about, if I sell 1,000 books, I'm going to make this much money and then I can do this or that. It's not about that. It's like, if I sell 1,000 books, that's 1,000 little girls.
1,000 little girls
story.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to keep in mind, man. I mean, that's what it really is. And, if you create impact, then money will follow. And
I like it, man. It's what I need, that little kick in the ass to get it going, right? But no, I'm fired up for that, and that's really at the heart of it, right? So hopefully this thing helps folks, and with trying to make impact, not trying to make cash. That's the goal. That's how I need to attack this. Get it into girls' hands, changing lives.
Totally, and
there it is.
I think it's great, man. I think this is it's such a cool project that's come together, and I've had a chance to see it from, the early stages.
From inception, sir.
How totally. It's, I mean, and
I might have been wearing my Polish weightlifting pants, Danny, when I read that poem.
Weird. Yeah, that was an odd weekend. And Joe got these apparently like only found in Poland weightlifting pants.
The Polish national team wears them, and I got them.
But you were talking about them all weekend, and I remember you went out and got like vodka or something like that with
Yatsik, Coach Yatsik.
Yeah, with that guy, and I fell asleep. I was exhausted because I'd been teaching. I woke up the next morning, and I was like, "Yeah, did you get those pants?" And he goes, "Yeah, I slept it." And I said, "Let me see them." And he goes, "I need a minute." I need a minute before I can show you these pants.
Take that. Whatever I need to do with that minute, you guys can.
That just means that means your testosterone levels are where they should be.
Yeah. And why ever they would be that high sharing a hotel room with you, I don't want to explore. But
and then you read me a kid's poem.
Then I read you a kid's poem to bring it down.
Immediately after. Yeah. No, it was that was a fun trip, man. Remember, on that same trip, remember you got that like $30 bag of beef jerky, and you're like, well, I got to get it now. I mean,
yeah,
and it wasn't
even that good. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was a great.
I tell that story sometimes. So like, here, quick lesson on price psychology. Okay.
Yeah. So
I tell this story sometimes about Joe buying this bag. It was like $30 bag of beef jerky in a Ziploc bag at this. It was at like some sort of barbecue place.
Barbecue stand.
Yeah, and this is down in Houston, and
got to be the best beef jerky ever. It's got to be.
I mean, that's what you said. Like, it's sitting in this this like meat case. You're like, man, $30 for beef jerky. That must be the best beef jerky ever. And it was mediocre beef jerky at that. I mean, it was
at best.
Wasn't great. But the pricing of that, the psychology of that makes you think, oh man, that's probably, whatever, twice the amount that I would ever pay for a bag of beef jerky. This must be the greatest beef jerky ever. So if you're undervaluing yourself, just think about that bag of beef jerky. You want to be the one. You want to be the one that's the most expensive and actually deliver on that. And people will be like, "I'll totally buy that beef jerky again."
That beef jerky was so costly and so bad that it actually made me evaluate my ability to criticize beef jerky. I was wondering if I had the problem. I was like,
I tried it too, and I was like, this is not any good. It was dry. You're kind of. I don't know if that's what they were going for.
Who knows?
But
some hillbilly in Houston probably did whatever with it. Who knows?
But, no, that was it. That was it. Price psychology, man. There's no sense in lowballing your prices because people just perceive it as being cheap and not.
Well, how high is too high? So let's talk about price in the book, man.
I mean, look, I think the price of the book is good. You're telling me that you're basically a third. Cost is a third. So that means, you've got, like 60-ish% margin there where if somebody's going to buy it wholesale, you can still sell it. If you're shipping, I'm assuming like whoever's buying it's covering shipping as well.
And one of the reasons I went with this particular publisher was to keep the cost down if I were to purchase them myself after I made them. And part of the reason in doing that was because if there was a group that wanted to like wholesale a bunch to fundraise or whatever, like I'm wholeheartedly willing to do that. So, and that's the thing with the website and all that stuff. You know, folks want to reach out to me and think that this book, like, you know, to me, I have little girls, but I don't know about organizations that do support little girls, right? Yeah. So in that regard, if there's a group out there that thinks that this book pairs with that message, like I'm all about it. Like, let's go. Yeah. Like, I'll use this book to beat the drum. And like you said, if we can make impact with this book and I can make that easier in any way to get this book in girls' hands, I'm fired up. We're ready to make it happen.
I think it's awesome. I will say one thing: you got to get a Facebook pixel on this website, man.
I don't? How do you know I don't?
I have a little Facebook Pixel Helper extension on my Google.
I don't even know what that means. I got to talk to Johnny then. I'll tell Johnny.
Just tell him you need a Facebook Pixel on your website so that you can start to track who comes to your website so that you can then retarget them with a message that says, "Hey, man, you don't love your daughter? Forgot to buy my book."
or Coach Joe has 2 kids. He's got to write 2 more books. And then here they are. So
That's right.
And we have the ideas. I'm starting to write those 2 already. So I'm fired up to see.
Like, we need one for Jack and Mason because they're into like history books and Legos and not necessarily lifting weights and swinging kettlebells around. So we need one for them too.
Well, I won't. I'll tell them to you off air because I don't want anyone thieving my ideas. But I got 3 ideas. I got 3 ideas for the next 3, and we're starting to do some sketches and outlines for them. One of them's a holiday book, and the 2 others are fitness related books featuring my other kids. You know how it is. You got one kid, you can't have one for one kid and nothing for the other.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's not like we gave our kids. We have little snack packs. You shouldn't bring that shit in our house, but man, they're good. Like. We never bring stuff like that in, but it's like crack. And, one of our kids, Maggie finishes her dinner earlier or faster than Jack, and she gets a snack pack. And Jack's like, I want a snack pack, like, okay, you got to finish dinner first and eat all your broccoli, and then you get snack pack. And so I can only imagine if one of them has a book, other 2, I see what happens with a snack pack. That's not even a tangible, book that was written for them. So,
well, this would certainly be one of those things that would show up as an adult. You wrote a book for Lucy, and that's why I live in the basement. Yeah, I could hear it. Yeah. So we're working it out. So
that's why I got neck tattoos. You wrote Lucy a book.
That's right.
Yeah, that's tough. All right. Well, guys, this has been a fun one. It was fun for me catching up with Joe. I hope you guys take it. Get a chance to go look this up. So Lucy Meets a Powerlifter, Lucy with an I.
Yeah.
And it's a great website. Johnny did an awesome job on it. The message is great. We got to support. Got to support little girls being strong out there. So I'm literally buying this book after we get off of this bad boy. I'm having to skip to the house.
Just a note on that. Right now it's kind of in a pre-order situation, and as I'm working it out, the first 150 copies are going to be on my front porch probably now. So
will you sign it? That's the thing. Are you?
Well, not only will we sign it, what I have this is something that I'm flirting with. My little girls, and Lucy included, love drawing unicorns, and Mason loves drawing trucks. So when I'm going to sign it, and what I've been doing with even some of the other stuff on the other podcasts that we'll do, and I kind of give out stuff that we give away from sponsors. I have my kids draw pictures for them. So Lucy and Charlie will draw you a unicorn, and Mason will draw you a truck. How about that? So I'll sign it. You get a free picture from the kiddos, and if you use code SHIPFREE, I'll even take care of the shipping on all pre-orders. So what do you think? Is that pretty good? We'll personalize it. What do you think, Danny?
What a great deal. So unicorns, trucks, and free shipping, ship free. I love it. All right, cool, guys, go check it out. Lucy Meets a Powerlifter. You learn how to be an author on this one. You learned how to sell via impact and not monetary value. This has been a good one, man. This is one of my favorite podcasts I've done on this business forum. So
and we got to catch up.
Man, I know, dude. It's good talking to you again. I feel like, we talked like once to twice or a few times a month for years. So, yeah, we have to do this on a non-podcast forum. When your wife gets out of the military, then you can move somewhere.
We're doing it. We're talking
closer.
about it.
Yeah, and we'll figure it out.
I don't know if it'll be closer. It might be Oregon. Have you ever been there?
No, that's not closer. No, never been there.
Oregon is
It's awesome,
tits, bro. It's awesome.
Really?
But you got to check it out. But that's another podcast, sir.
I would like to. I'll make a trip out there. All right, cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Reach out to Coach Joe if you need anything. Joe, where if somebody's interested in kind of reaching out to you or learning more about what you got going on, where's the best place?
Yeah, go to Lucy with an I, LucyMeetsAPowerlifter.com if you're interested in the book, and then Joe's Barbell. Actually, no, I think I just changed everything. It's Coach Joe, Coach _ Joe SZY on the Instagram. But just joesbarbell.com, you'll get access to all that stuff. And it'd be awesome. Be awesome to touch base with some of these PT entrepreneurs, Danny.
There you go. All right, guys. There you go, Coach Joe for you. Doc and Jock reunion with a book involved, a kid's book. And man, as always, we appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so very much for your time. It means a lot to us. And as always, let us know if you need anything from us or want to learn anything different from us. We always love to hear from you, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey, real quick before we go, I just want to say thanks so much for listening to this podcast. If you're one of the people that's already headed over to iTunes and left me a review, I really appreciate it. There's been over 50 iTunes reviews, and all of them being 5 stars, that have been left on this podcast since we started in August. That's awesome. And I read every single review. I take every little piece of advice that you give me in there, any criticism, any positive feedback that you have, I read all of it. And it's amazing to see that we're even getting reviews internationally at this point. So if you're one of the people that's reviewed the podcast, thanks so much. If you're an active listener of this podcast, I highly, highly encourage you to subscribe to the podcast and go to iTunes and leave me a short review. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and it really does help me get this information in front of more people. So guys, thanks again for your time, and keep listening.